Before the rooster's call, Ada knelt on the icy kitchen floor, her bruised hands scrubbing away in a house that never saw her as more than a shadow. Trapped in a life of servitude since childhood, she endured Madam's venomous insults in a world that dismissed her existence. Yet, today, the air feels heavier, whispering secrets that could unravel everything. When Chief Anasi's final breath calls for Ada, the invisible house help, a hidden truth begins to stir. A mysterious envelope holds the key to a legacy that could shatter the mansion's gilded facade. Will Ada's silent strength uncover the shocking truth buried in Chief's will? Before the rooster crowed, Ada was already awake. While others slept, she knelt on the chilly kitchen floor, scrubbing it with her bare hands. Her knuckles were bruised, her fingers red and swollen from the work. She was unbothered by it. Pain was familiar to her. It was the only existence she had ever known. She had lived in this household since childhood, not as a daughter or even a recognized person, but as a servant, a mere shadow in the background. Her duties included washing, cooking, cleaning, fetching water, ironing clothes, mopping floors, polishing shoes, and on rare good days, she was permitted to eat. At times, she stayed in the servants' quarters at the back of the house, a small storeroom with just a mat and a bucket. There was no fan, no window, only heat, mosquitoes, and silence. Yet she remained there, not because she wanted to stay, but because she had no other place to go. Everyone referred to her as Ada, but no one truly knew her. She was simply the girl Madame had taken in after her parents passed away, a sympathy case, a charity project, or so they claimed. Yet if this was charity, it felt like a penalty. Suddenly, a harsh, venomous voice echoed from the hallway. "You're still moving like a snail, you lazy thing," Madame exclaimed. She entered the kitchen in a flowing silk robe, as if strutting on a catwalk. Her gold bangles jingled as she pointed accusingly at Ada. "Is this why I provide for you? To embarrass me in front of guests with your slow cleaning? Is this what your late mother taught you?" Ada stood quickly, lowering her head. "Sorry, Ma," she murmured. Madame sneered. "Don't give me apologies, mermaid. You should be on your knees every morning, thanking me. Without me, you'd be scavenging in the streets. People like you should be thankful just to have a proper roof over your head." Ada nodded quietly. She never argued. She never did. Because if there was one thing Madame despised more than laziness, it was defiance. "Goodness," Madame went on, pacing the kitchen. "Why didn't a bolt of lightning strike your mother before she bore you? You think I don't see through your kind? Ungrateful child, always silent as if hiding something. I'm watching you." Ada pressed her lips tightly together. Yet she remained silent, as silence had become her shield, her refuge, her only strength. Later that morning, the house buzzed with activity. Important visitors were expected. The driver was cleaning the cars. The cook was grilling meat in the backyard. The cook's assistant was arranging juice glasses, but still found time to snap at Ada. "Your job is to stay out of sight, isn't it? Madame said to keep your rough face hidden so her friends don't see you. Don't bring bad luck to their meal." Ada turned away and slipped quietly to the side yard. That was her hiding spot during large gatherings, her private nook behind the generator. No one called for her. No one searched for her. She was invisible during significant events. She sat on the ground, gazing at the sky. There was no food for her yet. She would eat only after the last guest left, if any scraps remained. She had grown accustomed to the hunger, the long hours, the yelling, the insults. But today something felt off. The air seemed heavier somehow. For Ada, it was just another day of routine. But upstairs in the master bedroom, Chief Anasi, the man of the house, lay in bed, his breath slow and labored, each one a faint struggle to persist. He had been ill for weeks. Doctors came and went. Medications accumulated. Madame wept whenever guests visited, but once they left, she returned to her phone. Today, however, something shifted. The nurse on duty noticed his trembling hands and hurried to his side. "Chief," she said gently, "do you need anything, sir?" He tried to speak, his lips moving faintly. "Call her," he whispered weakly. "Who, sir?" the nurse asked. "Ada," he murmured. The nurse blinked, puzzled. Ada, the house help? She clarified. But before she could inquire further, his chest rose one final time and then stilled. Chief Anasi was gone. A piercing scream followed, rattling the house from wall to wall. "Oh, my husband!" Madame wailed, as if the world had collapsed. Her cries reverberated through the walls, echoing off chandeliers and marble floors. She threw herself to the floor, striking her body, her wig half pulled off. Guests quickly gathered. Mourners passed through. Ada observed from behind the fence. She didn't scream or speak. She simply stood there, staring at the sky, her heart long silent before Chief's heart ceased. She shed no tears that day. That night, the compound was crowded with visitors, prominent men, wealthy women, politicians, and distant relatives who had never cared before. They came to offer crocodile tears, gossip, and be noticed. Dressed in black, they clutched handkerchiefs to dab at feigned tears. Madame sat at the center, surrounded by consolers. But Ada was instructed to stay indoors. She watched through a slightly parted curtain, a burning sensation rising in her chest. The next morning, the compound was quiet again. The funeral was set for the weekend. Everyone was occupied with planning and discussions. Then came a knock, firm, direct, significant. A tall man in a gray suit stood at the gate, holding a brown envelope. "Good morning," he said. "I'm here to read Chief Anasi's will." The gatekeeper quickly let him in. The man strode directly to the living room where Madame sat. "I'm Mr. George," he announced, Chief's personal lawyer. "I'm here to read the will today." Madame sat up straight. Her face appeared calm, but her fingers trembled slightly. "Of course," she said with a smile. "Proceed." Her mind was already calculating. The house, the lands, the cars, the businesses. She glanced at the ceiling, whispering softly, "God, let something good come from this loss." But she was unaware that the contents of that brown envelope were far from her expectations. The living room was eerily silent, the ticking of the wall clock unusually loud. Madame sat erect in her armchair, like a queen awaiting her crown. She had changed into deep black lace, her gold bangles replaced with silver ones, her makeup carefully applied to convey just enough grief. A few relatives had gathered, some whispering in corners, feigning sorrow but more curious about Chief's legacy. There were cousins, nephews, a brother absent for years, all with somber faces but sharp, eager eyes. The lawyer, Mr. George, stood in the room's center, gripping the brown envelope tightly. He cleared his throat. "This is the last will and testament of Chief Anthony Anasi," he began. The room grew colder. Some crossed their legs. Madame folded her arms. A cousin leaned forward, already envisioning land deeds. Ada stood at the hallway's far end, not in the living room, not among them. She stood by the curtain, still as furniture. Her clothes were plain, her hands clasped, her eyes deep, weary, and unreadable, observing everything. No one acknowledged her or invited her to sit. She wasn't family, just the girl who cleaned up after them. The lawyer carefully opened the envelope, the sound of paper sliding out oddly amplified. He held the document, adjusted his glasses, and read. "To my beloved wife, Veronica Anasi," he said. Madame's lips curved into a slow smile, her shoulders easing. She glanced at the crowd, already picturing her inheritance, the house, the business, all hers. Ada could be gone today. But the lawyer continued, "I leave the Lexus Jeep and a quarterly allowance for my fixed deposit account. The guest house in Ape is also hers." Madame's smile faltered. "Quarterly allowance?" She blinked. She blinked again and asked politely, "Is that all?" The lawyer paused, not answering, and moved to the next line. "To my brother, Elder Kinanasi, I leave 2 million naira." The old man grinned toothlessly. "Ah, Tony, my brother, a good man. To my cousin, Afani, I leave my 2005 Toyota Hilux and 1 plot of land in Enugu." Afani snapped his fingers, whispering, "God is faithful." Whispers grew, heads turned, scanning the room. "That's it? What about the main house? The company?" Madame sat straighter, her tone icy. "Please, Mr. George, where's the rest?" Mr. George didn't reply. He turned to the will's final section, his voice softer, firm, slightly hesitant. The remainder of Chief Anthony's estate, his properties, investments, shares, company rights in this mansion, have been willed to. He paused. Madam leaned forward, as did the relatives. Even Ada, still silent, felt her heart pound. Mr. George scanned the room and said slowly, "The full details of this section are sealed in a separate file, to be opened privately with the beneficiary only." Gasps filled the room. Madam, stunned, exclaimed, "What do you mean, privately? This is my husband's will." "That's what he instructed," the lawyer replied calmly. "This part of the inheritance is to be handled solely with a named person." The room erupted in confusion. Why the secrecy? Where's family? We deserve to know. Mr. George raised a hand, silencing them. His wishes were clear. Not all truths are for public ears. Madam's hands gripped the armrest, her mouth opening, then closing, her eyes flickering with confusion, worry, and a hint of fear. "So, who is this beneficiary?" she demanded. "I can't say," the lawyer replied. "Not here. But they've been contacted and will meet me at my office tomorrow morning." Ada shifted slightly behind the curtain, unnoticed, her hands tightening, her eyes suddenly holding something unfamiliar. That night, the mansion was restless. Madam didn't eat, pacing her bedroom, replaying the lawyer's words, to be opened privately. Not all truths are for public ears. Her heart raced. Why had Chief kept this from her? What was he concealing? Downstairs, Ada sat by the kitchen sink, washing the guests' dinner plates. The water was cold, her hands trembling, but not from the chill. Something inside her simmered, hot and quiet. Yet she continued her work. "So, my time here is done. Just like that? Where can I go? Madam will surely cast me out soon." The next morning dragged for Madam. She hadn't slept, her pillow dry, but her mind drenched in confusion. She sat on her bed's edge, staring at the wall, her nightgown crumpled, her wig discarded, her eyes sunken. "What kind of will is this?" she muttered. "How can the most important part be secret?" She stood abruptly, pacing. "He told me nothing. I gave him children, years, and now this secrecy." The mirror offered no answers, the room no comfort. She dialed the lawyer, but he didn't pick up. She tried again, still no answer. "This man will give me high blood pressure." Meanwhile, in the servants' quarters, Ada completed her morning tasks, sweeping the backyard, cleaning the guest toilet, refilling water drums. But her heart was elsewhere, her mind replaying the lawyer's voice, the sealed file. No one had called her name, yet something stirred within her, not greed or curiosity, but a troubled spirit. Why would Chief hide something from Adam? This is serious trouble. By 10:15 a.m., Mr. George sat in his quiet office, surrounded by mahogany shelves, the air thick with the scent of leather files and old truths. He unlocked a small metal drawer, retrieving a cream-colored envelope sealed with the late chief's wax signature. He stared at it. "You always had secrets, sir," he murmured. The door creaked, and Ada entered quietly, dressed plainly, her hair in a scarf, eyes downcast. "Good morning, sir," she whispered. "You sent for me?" George stood, nodding gently, neither smiling nor frowning, and gestured to the chair opposite him. Ada sat. He placed the envelope between them, unnamed, unexplained. "This is for you," he said. Ada's eyes widened. "For me?" He nodded. "Chief left instructions. Everything in here is for you to know." Ada didn't touch it, her hands trembling slightly. Mr. George leaned back. "He rarely spoke of you, but I could tell you meant something." "I was just the help," Ada said quickly, almost ashamed. "Yes," the lawyer replied slowly, "but even shadows have stories." Back at the mansion, Madam paced the living room like a lioness guarding her territory. She had called 3 of Chief's friends for clues. Nothing. She searched his wardrobe, his documents, even a locked drawer. Still nothing. What could he hide from me? What is he doing from beyond the grave? She turned as the gate creaked. Ada entered, a white file under her arm. Madam's eyes locked on her, spotting the envelope, the look in Ada's eyes, and something snapped. "Where are you coming from?" she demanded. "Nowhere, ma." Ada replied. What's it you're holding? Nothing important. Madam marched over, snatching the file. She opened it, scanning the first page, then the second. Just one sheet. She froze, recognizing Chief's handwriting. Why did he give you this? Who are you really? Ada tore through, followed by a scream. Veronica leapt up. That girl isn't my husband's child, she shouted. She's a stray, a charity case. This is an outrage. Chaos erupted. Some agreed, others were confused. An elder demanded order. The lawyer raised a hand. I expected that, madam, he said coldly. That's why you must hear this story before the letter. Years ago, Veronica was a bright, ambitious, envious final-year student, rooming with Amaka, a gentle beauty with a life-changing secret. Amaka was engaged to Anthony, a wealthy magnate in his late 50s, still single, who visited her often. To others, he was a mentor, but to Amaka, he was everything. One night, Veronica overheard Anthony urge Amaka for a secret court wedding, not wanting their child born out of wedlock. Amaka agreed tearfully, and they wed quietly, known only to Veronica. But Anthony's trip abroad stretched long. Amaka, pregnant and alone, went into labor. Veronica, the only one there, ignored her cries, leaving her to birth alone. When the baby girl was born, Veronica wrapped her in cloth and abandoned her in bushes behind the hostel. By morning, Amaka died from blood loss, whispering Anthony's name. When Anthony returned 2 years later, eager to see his bride and child, he was told they died in childbirth. Devastated, he leaned on Veronica, who became his wife. But fate revealed the truth. 2 years into their marriage, an old woman arrived with a girl, Ada, found crying in bloodied cloth behind a school. She suspected Ada was Anthony's. A secret DNA test confirmed it. Ada was his and Amaka's daughter, the child he thought he'd lost. His wife, his savior, was his betrayer. Yet he didn't confront Veronica. Instead, he lied, bringing Ada into the house as an orphan to be helped. Murmurs followed. The lawyer unfolded the letter, hands trembling. The yellowed envelope, damp with sweat, bore Chief Anasi's penmanship. He read, To my family, if you hear this, I am gone. My house was built on secrets and a dangerous lie. I married Veronica, thinking she was all I had after losing Amaka and my child. I trusted her, built an empire with her, unaware she was my greatest betrayal. Silence revealed the truth, the kind only the dead whisper at night. To my sons, Elvis and Chuka, raised as my own, given my name, I knew you weren't my blood, born before I wed your mother. I raised you because a good man fathers those in his life. I don't hate you, but I won't lie in death. To Ada Anasi, I knew you were my daughter the moment I saw your eyes, like your mother Amakas, my true love. I kept you hidden to protect you, knowing the truth would destroy this house. I was silent, not weak, waiting to give you what's yours. Ada, you are my heir. All my properties, assets, lands, and company shares are yours. My fingerprints, DNA, and recordings secure this will. Let the law strike any who oppose. I ask not for revenge, but for healing only truth brings. From beyond, Chief Anthony Anasi. Silence gripped the hall, broken by a crash. Veronica hurled a vase to the floor. Lies, she screamed. My husband would never. This is forged George. Four officers blocked her. One held the document. Madam Veronica, this recording confirms it, he said, playing Chief Anasi's voice. If I die before Ada gets this, protect her, George. She's my only child, my true heir. Don't fail her like I did. Veronica collapsed, not in guilt but rage, glaring at Ada. You snake, I should have ended you. Barrister George stepped forward, voice icy. Madam Veronica, you're under arrest for attempted child abandonment, obstruction of justice, conspiracy, and forgery. The evidence is overwhelming. Your husband kept your letters, deleted texts. It's over. Veronica stared at Ada, her powdered face melting with sweat and tears. Her knees gave way, but no one helped. How'd it slip away? She whispered. She looked to Chuka and Elvis, but they avoided her gaze, ashamed. I did it for you, for this family, she murmured. Chuka turned away. Elvis stepped back. Veronica laughed bitterly. I built this house, wore his ring, gave my youth, and now it's hers. She spat, pointing at Ada. But Ada stood calm, graceful, unshaken. Veronica lunged, but officers restrained her. She's nothing, a mistake I should have erased. Ada stepped forward, meeting the eyes of the woman who discarded her. I forgive you, she said softly. Veronica blinked, the room stiller. I forgive you, Ada repeated. I won't carry your bitterness. I have too much to build, too many like me to uplift. You tried to bury me, but you planted a seed. Veronica froze, those words striking harder than any blow. She sobbed deeply, years of lies crumbling. Handcuffed, she was led away. No pearls, no power, no throne. A week later, the Chief Anasi Foundation headquarters, once Veronica's domain, bore a new nameplate. Ada Anasi, Executive Director. A new era began. Ada walked the halls, now adorned with images of children, outreach projects, and schools. She paused at a photo of Chief Anasi and Amaka in their youth, tears welling as she smiled. Thank you, Papa, she whispered. Young girls rushed to her, one with a bouquet. Miss Ada, you're our role model. We love you. She knelt, accepting the flowers. If I can do it, so can you. Never let anyone write your story. You hold the pen. They clapped, cameras flashed. Justice prevailed. The forgotten daughter was now the legacy's face. The house that silenced her now echoed her name, Ada Anasi. Hello, friends. Did this story move you? Share your thoughts below in your language. What would you tell Ada if you met her? Did Veronica get what she deserved? Your comments fuel me, friends. Like, share, and subscribe for more powerful tales. Until next time, goodbye. Step back. You'll find out soon enough. What do you mean? Madam pressed. Ada said nothing more, turned, and vanished upstairs behind the maid's door. Madam stood frozen in the living room, feeling fear for the first time. Not anger, not hatred, but fear. A question echoed her mind. What did he leave that he couldn't tell me in life? Madam couldn't rest, not with tea or sleeping pills. She sat on the sofa's edge all afternoon, staring at the file Ada left on the kitchen stool. It held no bank documents or property deeds, just a single letter in Chief's handwriting, folded, dated 2 years prior. No greeting, just weighty lines. One stood out. What I owe the world I have placed in her hands. Madam read it 23 times, each heavier than the last. Who was her? Why this letter? Why now? Why Ada? She leaned back, gasping for air. Then a memory struck. 10 years ago, the house was newer, livelier. Chief brought Ada in, a quiet, thin girl with dirty feet and frightened eyes. She's the child of a deceased friend, he said, needing shelter and care. Madam had resisted, but complied until she caught Chief staring at Ada as she dusted shelves by the hallway mirror. He wasn't smiling or frowning, just watching too long, too silently. Unease crept up Madam's spine. Why do you keep watching that girl? She asked. Chief blinked, turning away. Just checking her work, he said softly. That was when Madam first saw Ada as more than a maid, but she dismissed it. What could a servant mean to a man like Chief? Back in the present, Madam dropped the letter and stood, her chest heaving. She walked to the hallway mirror, the same one from years ago, staring not at herself, but at the staircase behind, as if Ada might reappear, her shadow lingering. What did you do, Tony? She whispered. What were you hiding? For the first time, Madam felt small in her own mansion. Meanwhile, Ada sat on her servant's room floor, back against the wall, file beside her, a candle flickering. She held a faded photo of a smiling woman and man, the man recently buried. She stared at it, folded it, kissed it, and slipped it back into the envelope. No tears fell, but her throat ached from holding them. She hadn't come to steal or seek revenge. She hadn't known her own truth. But now, everything was changing. The world was turning to see her. Soon they would all know. The compound was quieter now, but never silent. The walls seemed to whisper Ada's name. First, Cunnel, the security man, noticed Madam pacing by the hallway mirror nightly. Then Clara, the cook, saw Madam skip lunch for 2 days, suddenly polite to Ada. Ada, once a barely noticed shadow in uniform, was now a presence. People stared as she passed, unable to help it. Something had changed. Not her clothes or steps, but the house's reaction, as if it finally acknowledged her, sensing a shift. In Madame's rooms, she summoned her brother, Uncle Desmond, a retired detective with too much pride and time. He arrived in jeans and boots, chewing gum casually, but his eyes were sharp. When Madame handed him the letter, he studied it silently for 5 minutes, turning it over, sniffing it, holding it to the light. "This came from the maid?" he asked. "Yes," Madame said quietly. "She brought it after the funeral." "Are you sure she didn't steal it?" "I don't know what to believe." Desmond set the paper down, crossing his legs. "Want me to investigate her past?" "Everything." Madame nodded quickly. "Her origins, her identity, what she knows, and why Tony gave her this." Desmond nodded slowly, smiling. "Think she's his child?" "No," Madame said too quickly. "She can't be." But her doubt was clear, and Desmond saw it. "I'll start tonight," he said, grabbing his keys. "Let's find out who this house help really is." That night, Ada stood behind the kitchen curtains, watching Desmond's car leave the compound. She didn't flinch or hide, just watched silently, her heart steady. She was ready. Let them dig, search, pull every file and photo. They wouldn't find the truth in archives. It was in this house, in locked rooms, in boxes Chief kept secret, in voices Madame ignored, in shadows that moved unseen. In the boys' quarters, Cunnel and Clara spoke in low, nervous tones. "That girl's not ordinary," Clara said. "Which girl? What are you on about?" Clara wiped her hands on her apron. "You're scared of a little girl? It's not fear, it's respect. I swear, even Olga feared her spirit. That girl has power. Why would Chief write her a letter? He didn't even give her anything, just a letter." They laughed, but kept glancing over their shoulders. Days later, the hall in Chief Anasi's mansion was so quiet the grandfather clocks ticking echoed. Portraits on the walls seemed to watch, judge. Mr. George stood in the center, nervous, sweat beading despite the air conditioning. He glanced at the officer by the entrance, adjusting his tie. He hadn't slept, plagued by threatening calls, heavy breathing, masked voices, and midnight knocks. One message read, "Change the will in my favor, or lose more than your career." He knew who sent it and why. So he followed Chief Anasi's dying wish, calling a meeting with family, police, journalists, and select community elders. Here he stood in a house of explosive secrets. Veronica, the widow, sat rigidly, surrounded by her children, the presumed heirs. Her black gown shimmered, but her face was cold and stormy. Ada sat near the door, at the lawyer's insistence. The room hushed as Mr. George opened a leather file. "Before I proceed," he whispered, "I feared for my life, but I fear buried truth more." Murmurs rose. Veronica's jaw tightened. He opened a sealed envelope, untouched since Chief's passing, containing a letter from beyond. "I was instructed," he said, gripping it tightly, "to read this aloud to everyone here." Silence fell. "First, I have a story only a few here know, and fewer want told." Veronica shifted, fear flickering in her eyes. He began, "Years ago, before Veronica was Chief Anasi's wife, another woman was to be his only bride." Gasps rippled through. Veronica gripped her chair. Her name was Amaka, a gentle, pure university student, pregnant with Chief's child. He planned to marry her, holding a secret court wedding witnessed only by Veronica, her friend. Heads turned, but things went wrong. Chief was called abroad, leaving Amaka with Veronica, promising to return. While he was gone, he paused, voice catching. Something horrific happened, something that should never have been hidden. Tension crackled. Some leaned forward, others whispered, glancing between Veronica and the lawyer. Officers stood taller. Veronica's fingers clawed the chair. "I'll be brief," the lawyer said. "The chief's letter will tell the rest." He faced Veronica. "But first, a revelation. This envelope holds Chief Anasi's final will, bequeathing all his wealth, lands, estates, businesses, deposits, to one person." A collective breath. Veronica and her children leaned forward, one whispering, "It's definitely me." The lawyer shook his head. The person is Ada Ainasi. A gasp.